Hey, what's up, boxers? This is Zach Rosette with Buildbox. I got another free game here for you that I made. And so this one has got a little character running down a road covered with spikes, and there's spikes in front of him, and then there's also these red floating spike balls that are chasing him and coming from behind. You've got a couple ramps that are obstacles as well, and you have to go over the ramps to make sure that you get over the spike pits. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to make a few changes to this game to make it maybe a little bit better, and I'm going to show you how you can add levels, and also I'm going to show you just how I made this game in general so that you can make games like this yourself. And then at the end of the video, I'm going to give you a link to download this game, and so you can play around with it, and that will be in the description of the video. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. Okay, so let's go ahead and start by going into our 3D world and checking out this game world that I've set up here. So the first thing I would do though to improve this game, so keep in mind I made this in like 2-3 hours tops. And so this game is not perfect, it's not polished, but you know, hey, it's not bad for a couple hours, and it's at least, you know, gonna get you started. So one thing I'm noticing right off the bat is that the spikes in the game are a little bit large. So I'm gonna go ahead and take this first scene, I'm gonna hit S on my keyboard, and what that does is it solos this scene out. So it's just gonna play this first scene over and over again, and this is great for testing. So I'm gonna go ahead and test out this scene. And so we got these big old spikes, and I feel like we could go a little bit smaller. I feel like they're kind of bigger than the character, and I was thinking maybe they could be at least the same size as the character, or maybe a little bit smaller. Let's go ahead and switch this over to a smaller preview. But you see how the balls are a little bit too big, so let's go ahead and exit out of this preview. I'm going to show you how we can change the size of these spawn stations. So and that's what I'm calling them, is spawner stations. That's where once the character, this is how it works, once the character goes past these little spawner stations, they're going to seemingly come out of the fog or out of the mist, and they have a wake up time. So if I go over here to my spawner station node, you'll see that I've got a wake up distance of -30. So once the character goes well past this, it's going to spawn, and it's going to send the character, this enemy character over here, that has a move of -50. So it's going to come at the character fast. So, but I don't like the size of this, so I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to click my spawner stations, and I'm just going to select them all real fast in the scene, and then I'm going to shrink them down a little bit. So I'm going to go over here to scale, and I'm just going to put in, let's try 0.7 across the board, and let's solo that scene out, and let's see what it looks like at 0.7. So I'm going to go ahead and press play, and then let's see how big these little guys are. Yeah, see, that looks so much better. So that's one thing, is just getting things the right size. So I really like that. I think we're going to go ahead and keep that. I think 0.7's all right. One thing, let's make sure that they're hitting the character, because they're flying a little bit high, if you notice. Okay, no, they're totally killing the character. Okay, perfect. That's going to work. Okay, so let's now go, I'm going to hit S on my keyboard and stop soloing out this first scene. And I'm going to go ahead and fast forward through this next part, because I'm going to change the spawner stations on some of the other scenes as well. Okay, so now that that's done, let's check out some of these other spike scenes, because those were also kind of difficult. I felt like the first one was okay, but there's one of these spike scenes that's a little bit just too difficult. I think somewhere along the lines here, where I have two spawner stations right next to each other, I think that one is just a little bit too difficult. So that's kind of another thing I wanted to cover in this video, is when you're making your levels and you're designing your levels, make sure you don't go too hard or too easy. And that's kind of a, you know, it takes a little bit of finesse figuring that out as a developer, but it's a good thing to question. So there's a few more here that I probably want to take out, and then we'll be good to go. And I want to talk to you about how I made this game. Okay, cool. I think that's fine. Yeah, some of these spikes just a little bit too hard. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and I'll save this, and then that will be what you are working with. So you got that fixed. Okay, so now that we've improved the game a little bit, let me show you how you can add your own levels to this game. So I have the levels kind of in different sections. So the first couple levels have these spikes that are spawning and they're chasing the character from behind. You'll notice that with these little white cubes. And so if you want to make a copy in another scene where you have some of those, then you just take this scene here and you hit D on your keyboard and it's going to duplicate it. Now it's going to number it the one that's after it, so you'll just have to rename it 11, scene 11, and then if you want to, you can move the scene over. You look for that little green bar there and then you release it and you drop it and you can move it over. So I'm going to move it past my 10th scene. Is what I'm going to do. Just move it right about there. Perfect. Okay, cool. But you can also take these other scenes and you just hit D on your keyboard to duplicate the scenes, and then you can take sections and move them around. So you can just grab like a whole bunch of these guys if you want. Just grab them one at a time, and I need to get around it because I'm coming out at a weird angle. But if you need to move things around or do different sections, let me not grab the ground. There we go. So if you need to move things around or move it over here, you can do that, and you just basically move the spikes around, maybe move some of the spikes on the walls. You can also move some of the decorations. I would also definitely lock down the out of bounds here, because these are set up so that if the character happens to go over the ramp and jump the wall, that he'll hit this little wall, this invisible wall, and then the character will be defeated as well. So that's how you can create some extra levels, of just duplicating a scene and then moving some things around real fast. It's really, really simple. And I actually have another video that you can watch that I released earlier this week, and I'll include the link to watch that video in the description below, and it shows you how you can create your own main characters all within inside Buildbox. Alright, so let's take a look at this main character. So when you actually look at the main character in this scene, you can see that he's got spiky hair, bulging eyes, little mouth. And when you look in here in the main character's node map, you're going to see that every single one of those pieces of his body is represented by a 3D model. So when you are creating your own 3D models and you want to create your own main characters, you mainly want to work over here with the content tab and just bring out 3D models, and you give specifications to what you want it to look like. It's really, really simple. So let's check out this character's node map just so we can get an idea. So first off, we have a start node here that gives the object type as dynamic. That means that gravity is going to be affecting this character. And then we also have a movement in the negative Z direction, so it's coming right at the camera. And that's also due to the position of the camera. And then the little bouncing that he has when he's running, I don't know if you can notice this. I have this here in debug mode now, and you can see the collision shapes of the spikes and everything like that. And that's really, really useful, having that in debug mode. Let's go ahead and restart this. You see the little tiny hopping, and so it kind of looks like he's running or bouncing. I just thought that that would be a nice added little effect, and so I added that here with the bounce node. And so it's mostly for just a visual effect, and to create the running effect. The next node is a really, really useful node that you'll probably want to use, and this is Touchmove Physics. And so this is so that you can touch move physics types or object types that are dynamic, and you can touch and you can move them side to side like I'm doing in the game. Now, the other thing that's really important, and this is something you probably want in a lot of your games, is this if collide, then defeat, and then you set off the event game over. Okay, those three tend to go together. You if collide with the affected asset is the enemies, and then that's going to defeat the character. And then I actually have a little bit of a delay, mostly so that you can play this explosion animation. So when the character runs into an enemy, you'll notice that he just explodes into a bunch of little balls. Okay, I do that so I have a little bit of a delay here set up so that that explosion plays out, and so you can kind of enjoy the animation. And I got this explosion node from some of the boxers on the Buildbox forum, so you definitely want to go onto the Buildbox forum and check those nodes out. It's in the forum section where you go to game design and then BB assets, and then you've got a bunch of nodes and BB assets in there for you to use. And one other thing I want to show you real quick, just in case you feel like the game is too hard, because you can see when the character's moving, he's moving at a pretty good pace, and so sometimes it can get a little bit too challenging for some of you, and that's totally fine. So if you want to make the game a little less challenging, you can go actually out to your game mind map. You go to your 3D world, and right now I have the time warp set to 2. You can set it to, normally it's set to 1, so you can set it to whatever you want, but you'll notice that when it's at 1, it's real slow. I mean, this is just, it's just too slow, too easy. And I still have those spikes that are being thrown out from behind. They're a lot faster because they're set to make the character move faster. But anyways, I just felt like this was too easy, so if you want to slow it down some though, you are welcome to. You can just mess with the time warp is how you can do it. And so that is basically it. That's the whole movement of the character, is just turning the character around in the 3D world, moving them side to side, and then you create enemies from behind and in front. And so I hope you like this video, and I also hope that you like this game and you can use it to create something really cool and unique. Like you could put like a dinosaur behind the character so that the character is running from dinosaur. You can do all sorts of different game styles. I just kind of threw this one together in a couple hours. So hopefully this inspires a few of you, and as always, keep on boxing.